3-minute warning. This is Clubhouse edition.
Yes, here at the Clubhouse, we take our time and reflect on the week that was. My name is Michael Medina. With me, as always, my good buddy, David Griffin.
We're also joined today by AJ Lawrence. Say hello, AJ.
Hi, guys.
We're also joined, special guest today, MG Montemayor is joining us. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everyone.
Let me get right. Oh, sorry. Thanks for cutting people off. Got the guests on, cutting her off already.
Just too excited to talk about all
I just want to
these-
get going.
all
I
these
want to
news.
move.
I know.
I want to move. No, we're talking about Deflategate, one of the biggest topics going on right now. Maybe not the most appropriate, just because we have all this good stuff with the draft going on. NFL's back. It's going to be a great season. A lot of good players coming in from the draft. I think it's going to be exciting. But controversy is what is fueling this right now. Deflategate is going on. AJ, tell us what's going on with Deflategate.
Well, we waited a good 100 days plus for a resolution after that AFC Championship game, and then it came out that the Patriots' balls were a little underdeflated. And we finally have our answer, and it's, more probable than not that the Patriots actually did intentionally deflate the footballs. And now we have some indication that Tom Brady, the quarterback, may have known about it. We know we've exonerated Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, but everything's seeming to fall on Tom Brady's head right now. And there's a head to be wanted. The NFL may go ahead and suspend or fine him. We don't know, but we know he was only generally aware that they were deflating footballs. What do you guys think the punishment should be, if there should be any punishment at all?
That's funny to me. I could just see Tom Brady's well, what happened was, no, it's he's the golden boy, right? I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. I don't think. I don't think. I know we were talking about before the show. We're talking about, he might be suspended a year.
Yes.
6 games to a year, whatever. I don't know. I just don't see it happening. I think the NFL loves him too much.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a year, but I would see 3-4 games.
I could
at
see
least.
that. Yeah.
And that's I think that's a pretty big one for this kind of a penalty, but I don't see it going for a year, and I think he'll be forgiven easily if he somehow comes out and admits that, hey, you know what, maybe I did have some part in this, then he'll be forgiven. But if he continues to deny, I don't know if we'll forgive him, as we've seen in the past with other athletes.
Well, see, my only huge concern is the idea that he's generally aware. What is generally aware? It's kind of like, oh, it might be in the back of my mind. I might know it is. It's just kind of, I felt it was so vague. And I understand that he didn't turn over his text messages or emails, and they say that that wasn't cooperative. But who would turn over their text messages or emails? Those are very personal. And he's married to a banging woman who's got her stuff together and all that stuff. I wouldn't want my personal information being rifled through by some junior associate at a law firm to pick and to pull apart and to find if there was something there. So I completely understand his reluctance to get involved. And I'm not going to say he did anything wrong just because he didn't want to turn over his personal things and because he was generally aware.
Well, that's the thing. I agree with that, too, because especially in this day and age with, baseball and PEDs, when you hear somebody say, I was generally aware, you think of guys like, Rafael Palmeiro, you think of Alex Rodriguez and this stuff. We roll our eyes now because, don't tell me you guys didn't know something was going on. You know what I mean? So that's why, yeah, absolutely, Brady needs to just smarten up and just be like, look, I screwed up. Yeah. I made a mistake. I think it could be a few games. A few games is fine. Maybe not for Buffalo fans. Maybe a full year would be better for you. But nonetheless, I could see a few games, just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, I can see with the thought, if he was generally aware, as in he had some inkling that something was wrong, I could see them holding him accountable for that and not stepping up and saying something or even checking to make sure you are fully aware nothing's going on. I think that would be acceptable, to give him maybe a 1 to 2 game suspension or maybe hit him with a lofty fine. But just to hold someone accountable and saying you are guilty, you are convicted based on being generally aware, not a fan.
But I will say, I still think some non-Patriots fans are going to be really upset that he stood on a podium and said, hey guys, I had nothing to do with this. I know that I like my balls at 12.5 or whatever, and to not notice that those balls were well below that. Yeah. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people out there who aren't fans. They're going to say Brady deserves to be punished more than, let's say, the 3 or 4 games, and he should, not be able to play for a longer period than that. Even if it is a year, there's going to be a lot of backlash on that. I still think.
Speaking of balls, let's talk about Gronk.
Oh, God.
I hope everybody watched Gronk's wonderful little dialogue he had there with his camera phone.
Yep.
talking
classy,
about D's
very
nuts.
classy.
He is definitely going to be fined for that.
Yeah.
He is going to be fined. They said punishment could come out any day now. But the thing is with Gronk, even when he makes a mistake, you still love him.
Oh, of
'Cause he's
course.
Gronk. He's just like,
Yeah.
you know,
He's that
you love him.
big dumb guy that you're just like, oh. And, you know, you
Gronk.
kind of wonder, like, is he pulling a number on us? Is it going to turn out, you know, he had like a 4.5 GPA, he's got
Yeah,
a
right.
195,
He's a genius.
like like he's just all over the map in terms of intelligence, and he's like, yeah, I'm playing y'all, and this is good. I don't know, but he has
That'd be
fun.
funny.
I mean, back to Brady, I think that we're in an era where there's so mistrust with athletes right now. I mean, you look at like, you know, Tiger and his thing. People like to see a comeback, but I think we just don't trust athletes anymore. I don't think we ever did, but I think back in the day we maybe used to idolize them, especially back in the days of Jordan.
Guys like Ray Rice.
But
you know.
now it's like we just, with all this stuff, we see video footage and, you know, Adrian Peterson, we see like the kid and is, you know, getting beat, and you just don't trust athletes anymore. So look at Brady smiling, and it's like, I just don't know if I trust you. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the court of public opinion can be just as harsh as a court of law.
I
so
will
we'll
say
Absolutely.
this though, compared to what we've dealt with already with PEDs, Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, this is pretty tame.
Oh, I
This is
couldn't agree
pretty
more.
tame.
And you know he didn't need like to deflate the footballs to win.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, David, in terms of like the change of how we don't really idolize or look up to these athletes anymore. It's almost the same thing with presidency. It's because we know too much. We have this digital era where we access to these people all the time. We know what they're doing. We're TMZ trolling. And so we know everything about them. We realize they're just like us. And, you know, I deflate my footballs, honestly.
Who doesn't? I really think they're going to have to come down on him a little bit, though, just because he is a golden boy. I think if they show a little bit of punishment with him, people will be happy. Like, at least knock him out 3 or 4 games. As a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm happy about that. But, you know, I think they're going to have to do something. I think they're under so much scrutiny in the NFL right now.
I mean, I do wonder what this relationship with Kraft and Goodell is,
Yeah.
how it's going to impact it, since they are pretty tight. So I don't know how far he can go and say, hey, I've got to screw you on this one. I'm sorry, because he already went hard on Greg Hardy and did the 10-game suspension. So for him, it's not as big. Okay, we know that. But he's got to give him something.
Yeah.
It can't just be a slap on the wrist in this case.
Definitely agree.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about some NBA playoffs. Took a
Yeah.
little break last night. I was sad, actually. I realized, like, oh, there's no basketball on tonight. Tonight they are back. Los Angeles is back in LA with Houston, Chicago, Cleveland series heating up. Good series there. All series, well, at least the 2 that we're seeing tonight, both at 1-1 right now. Michael, tell us about the NBA playoffs.
Oh man, they've been a lot of fun. I know, like, we were big fans of the Clippers-Spurs series. That was one of the best. It was hard to believe that was a first-round series. It was just so much fun. But I think right now, with the 4 games we have going on right now, they're shaping up to be just what we expected. I didn't see any of these teams sweeping anyone. It's going to be hard fought, like Bulls, Cavaliers. I mean, that last game, LeBron really stepped up and did what he was supposed to do, you know, with not having Kevin Love and not having J.R. Smith, who should be coming back. You know, Blake Griffin doing what he's done and stepping up for the Clippers. I mean, we talked about this before. Even going into the postseason, the Clippers were red hot. So were the Spurs. When they're, you know, but Blake Griffin's the type of player, he's really just, he's matured. He's grown as a player. He's not just about lob sitting anymore. Like, he's getting the job, he's working on his shots, working on his defense. He's all around becoming a much better player.
What do you thought? I mean, I know you're from Houston.
I
Lindsay.
am, you know, so I will say I grew up loving the Rockets, and that's my team right there. And I will say I was very shocked about Game 1 and their performance. I think the Clippers really pulled it off. Blake's been in the zone, and I think, you know, he's just in that time in his career right now where everything is clicking on all cylinders, and he doesn't need that support as much. With Chris Paul out, he was able to basically get anything he wanted out of the Rockets in Game 1. I will say, though, in Game 2, the second half wasn't as great. They got Ariza on him on defense, and it was tougher. So they were forcing, you know, guys like Barnes or Rivers to take the open shots, which didn't work out so well. So we'll have to see if CP3 does play tonight. But I think, in fact, I would have preferred to play the Spurs. I know that sounds crazy, but I think the Rockets match up a lot better to the Spurs than they do with. Something about the Clippers just gives the Rockets a really hard time. And even at Clippers home field, I think they're going to have a really tough time tonight. It's not going to come easy. So we'll see how it works out. But if CP3 plays, it's going to be big trouble for the Rockets. But I will say I think Harden will have a big night tonight. I don't think he can go more than 2 games without being in a slump. So mark my words, he's going to show up tonight. And he does need a little more help from Josh Smith and Corey Brewer.
Yeah, well, definitely. We'll see, like, what kind of Chris Paul we get if he does come back. You know, because we know John Wall's going to be gone for a while, too, so that's going to hurt Washington.
Big time.
Huge. And this is one of the teams I kept telling people, don't sleep on Washington, don't sleep on Washington. They're good, they're legit, but now with Wall out, I think that series is done.
Yeah,
really.
I definitely agree with you. It might be over. One thing I am all about and all over watching is the Cavaliers, because, you know, you saw LeBron Game 1, didn't do all that well. He really kind of felt like he didn't perform, but he also was without that headband. And all of a sudden, game
That's
two came.
what it was.
You saw the headband, and it was like a cape. You're dealing with a whole different man, and he's out there, and he didn't perform as well as he could have. But my God, he owned it, and he was just a beast in it. And you realize when he has this magnetism and this dynamic aspect of him just rolls out there, and it just empowers the entire court, and you can feel it through a TV. It's good.
Well, you guys might not know this about me, but I'm a Chicago fan.
Oh God.
In case you didn't know,
You know
I'm
what?
from Chicago.
Couldn't have
Oh, really? No, but I will say one of the things that Cleveland really did well in that game was they exposed some of our weaknesses. They put a lot of pressure on us. Right now, we're having issues with turnovers. Like, we just, for whatever reason, cannot hold on to the damn basketball. I don't know what it is. We're looking sloppy out there. They exposed us, made us look like punks, really. We look bad. So I'm hoping that guys like Jimmy Butler, Rose is weird. I mean, I know we were joking around. You call him Mr. Inconsistent. You're not wrong. But when he's been on, he's been on. He's looked great. Jimmy Butler has been pretty consistent for us. And Paul Gasol, I've been saying this since like the start of the season. I was like, wow, I did not think he could turn his career around the way he has, but he has. He's been great. So I think, this is definitely going to be a much better game. It's in Chicago. Jimmy Butler, congrats on Most Improved Player. I think it's going to be fun tonight.
It's gonna be a good game. I'm also looking ahead. I'm really impressed with the Golden State-Memphis series.
Yes.
I think everybody's sleeping on Memphis. I think everybody's already put Golden State in the NBA Finals.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, for good reason. They've proven that they have the MVP and Steph Curry. But I really like Memphis. I think they could upset them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not all the way, but maybe at least push it to 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I can see him winning
6
2
or 7
games.
Yeah.
And
6
if
or 7
Conley
games.
with that mask on, see the same
that mask
thing.
is scary.
Headband,
Yeah.
you got a mask. You have a full line of Avengers and Cape Crusaders going on in the NBA playoffs, and it's wicked. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Washington Atlanta series isn't getting as much press just because it's not as sexy, especially with John Wall out. It's just not a lot of stars over there.
And
I mean,
no
they're
one
great
talks about
players,
Atlanta.
but no one talks about Atlanta.
Yeah.
Best record in the East,
about
yeah. Who cares about Atlanta?
I love it. I know you say it like it's a matter of fact. Like, no, nobody cares about it.
They're
They're not real basketball.
Anybody watching that series? No, I'm sure people from Atlanta and Washington are watching that series.
I'll be honest, I wasn't watching many of the Eastern Conference games this season.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's been the problem with the
yeah.
Eastern Conference for quite some
time.
time now. It's just been pretty, inferior to the Western Conference. But I think this is the first year in a while that I think the Eastern Conference postseason has been a little better, more interesting, better competition, I guess, but still not great.
Yeah. That and everything seems to be on the West. It's the West Side. Just saying.
So we're going to some boxing now. Talk a little Mayweather Pacquiao action. The big fight was on Saturday, May 2nd. Had a little party at my place. Watched it. It was fun. I think the party was more fun than the fight, but that's just,
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, seeing the celebrities and everything, seeing those awesome seats that Andre Agassi had. He had better seats than like anybody in the house.
Seriously.
Agassi and Steffi Graf rolling still rolling. MG, tell us a little bit about Mayweather Pacquiao. Tell us what's the aftermath is like.
So we do know the aftermath. It wasn't a great fight. People were watching paint dry, and it was definitely not worth its money. But now the aftermath is more drama than the actual fight itself, with Pacquiao not disclosing his shoulder injury until after the fight. And according to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, he didn't check off that he was injured before the fight. And now several class action lawsuits are being brought up against him and Top Rank and Bob Arum. And now the question is whether the legal system will grant this to the public and the viewers who have paid for the fight, the ticket holders, and just the people who gambled, that they may be sued for at least $5 million per lawsuit. So I'm not sure who's going to end up winning on this one, but right now it seems like people are turning on Pacquiao for not disclosing this injury. It looks like it's big trouble for him, and he's going to be out for 9 to 12 months, so that may be it. Hopefully all of his earnings don't go away. He made about $150 million on this fight, so it's kind of a big deal because now we're talking, okay, was he being deceitful for not mentioning it beforehand? Did he neglect to check it because he wasn't paying any attention? Because he was stating that he was taking meds for his arm and shots, and he was denied the shot the night before the fight. And 60% of the power in that right arm, and as you know, he's a southpaw. So as a southpaw, you lead with your right. You're normally left-handed, but you lead with your right arm and your right leg. So his right jab is actually his power arm, but in the past several fights, he's been using his left cross, which has been the arm he's been knocking out a lot of his latest opponents with. So for him, he was able to use that left cross in the past, but he overworked the right arm doing practice and injured it. So I don't know what this means for Pacquiao in the future, whether he'll fight again or if he'll go out and lose all the glory he's earned over the years.
You know, I think it's going to be tough because I've mentioned this before. We talked about boxing kind of dying sport right now. And I've said before, I think this fight might be the nail in the coffin. You know what I mean? Because this is the fight that we've been waiting for years. We finally got it, and now I almost wish it never even happened. If this is what we're left with, you know what I mean? If this is the fact that like Pacquiao not being 100% and fans wanting to get their money back. I mean, the fight was dull, like David said. I mean, I watched the fight with David, and his party was great. You know, so that was all right. You know, but the fight was just like halfway through. I'm just like, what round is this? I'm like, can we get this up? It was just disappointing. It's like this is not. You know, I grew up as a child. I remember Mike Tyson being like just amazing. You know, Vander Holyfield was a guy I really liked too, and this is not the same boxing.
Yeah, and the thing is, I do think that our perception and what we expected out of boxing, whether it be, you know, Rocky IV and Ivan Drago being our definitive kind of things, but it just, you know, it wasn't what we expected at all. And as much as a lot of people say, hey, you know, this is the way Mayweather fights, this was actually a normal fight, it still wasn't what people expected. So it is one of those completely dying sports, unfortunately. But one thing is this little arm injuries thing, it kind of creates an excuse for it to stay alive, to say, well, he wasn't able to give his best, so we really don't know whether boxing is that awesome or not. Maybe we just missed it out. But, you know, I don't know necessarily if anybody wants to pay to see it again, even if it was kind of a fluke or it wasn't the best performance.
Well, that's the thing, too, it was a $100 price tag. Mm-hmm. You know, she paid $100 for a half-assed fight, and now now I know Mayweather said he doesn't want to have another fight, but let's just say that they decided, oh, let's do another one. Would people want to shell out another $100?
And the thing is, he's injured. It was a significant tear in his right rotator cuff.
So he's going to be out for, what, 9 to 12 months?
9 to 12 months, and those injuries are not the easiest to recover from.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's disappointing it happened this way because I have seen a lot of Pacquiao's fights. And from the first round, I knew he wasn't being aggressive. Something was wrong, something was different. He had a lot of chances to corner him when he was up against the ropes and finished it off, and he didn't do it. And I was like, what's wrong with him? Is he scared? Is he being hesitant? What's going on? And now that I learned about the injury, I do kind of get it because I've seen a lot of his fights in the past, but it's just unfortunate that this had to happen this way. And I almost wonder if he had told the commission beforehand that, hey, I'm injured, would the fight have been postponed, or was he afraid that Mayweather and his camp would have said, "Hey, you know what? It's not going to happen on May 2nd. We're not doing it," because it's been in the works for 5 years now. So for him to think that it might have been canceled again for this excuse, he probably was like, "I'll just go in and try my best."
Absolutely, I felt there was too much money on the line. People were not gonna. It wasn't gonna work if he said, you know, I hurt and have a boo boo. But also, I'm thinking that if he were to come forward and he said, you know, I'm hurt, there's something wrong with it, I feel that the commission would have said, this is way too valuable for Nevada, for boxing, for us not to give you the injection. Let's just give you the injection so you can go forward and fight the good fight. And, you know, unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so now we have all these excuses, and everybody's out $100 and some people $10,000.
Right, and even Mayweather now is saying that, you know, I was going to fight him, but he's not saying that I won the fight deservedly so. So I'm not going to rematch him. My last fight is in September. If he wants to be in my undercard, he can join me, which is another dig, you know, on Mayweather's side. He's great at those. But it's just a funny way of how, like, this was a chance for boxing to really reinvigorate itself.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the way the cards fell, it didn't happen that way. And I wonder now if the legal system will say, the fans were deceived from getting the fight they paid for.
Yeah.
That is a big question. What will happen there? So.
Well, then you always wonder I guess with sports it's different. But then it's like, I always feel like it's like going to see a movie. You know, you go to an IMAX theater out here in LA, you're paying $20 a person. You got a family of 5, it's $100. You know, it's like if the movie's not good, you know, you can't sue the movie company for the movie not being. But I mean, I know this is different because they sign contracts. So you don't sign a contract with like a movie company when you go watch a movie. So it's a little bit different. But it's interesting just the relevancy, like you said, of boxing. This was the chance. Like this is the chance for them to be like, hey, come watch our fights. I think there's just so much going on in boxing. It's just so big. There's so many weight classes. There's junior middleweight and middleweight and feather. Like that's why even though UFC's not at that level yet, UFC Dana knows how to market. You know, he has free fights on Facebook. There's free fights on YouTube you can watch. There's a UFC app on Xbox you can download. They have the Ultimate Fighter show, which is like American Idol, but for, you know, fighters. You can get to know the fighters and the trainers.
Doesn't hurt he has Ronda Rousey.
And he has Ronda Rousey.
One of the most recognizable names
who's
in sports.
Fury, who's in the biggest movie, well, since the Avengers came out, you know, in Furious 7 right now. is more marketable, I feel like, even though they don't get paid. I think Ronda's last fight, she made like $150,000 to $200,000, which isn't bad. That's not bad for 14 seconds.
If you break it down by
that's
second.
Not bad, but she's not making millions and millions of dollars like Mayweather. But I think, and I guess that's just we're going to segue now into our last, second to last topic about a dominant athlete. What makes a dominant athlete? Business Insider released their top 50 most dominant athletes right now. And Ronda Rousey herself, UFC bantamweight champion, women's champion, just crazy athletic, crazy good judo champ, is number 1. The list is interesting because it has Floyd Mayweather at 14. Other people in it, Serena Williams, of course, she's 33. She is when she's on. I mean, nobody can beat Serena. She's just crazy good. So she needs to be up there. Kershaw from the Dodgers is up there. That makes sense.
8th.
Yeah, Kershaw was 8th. But Floyd at 14, I know he's getting older. So I guess my question is, what makes an athlete dominant? Is it because Floyd's older and there's just not enough competition there? But with Ronda, same thing. Ronda dominates. Shouldn't Floyd be up there with her because he dominates as well?
You know what? For me, I think that some of the outside factors that are attached to Floyd affect his relevancy. Not just that, but it kind of, you want your star to have this je ne sais quoi kind of like almost godly kind of feel, And with a lot of controversy surrounding Mayweather, I think it's hard for people to say, yeah, we want to root for him, but yeah, some people don't believe in some of the outside things like the domestic violence issues surrounding him too. So he's great, but he has his flaws that kind of really shade his persona a little bit. And I think everyone, if you look at everyone in that top 10, pretty much so they have, they're pretty spotless for the most part. So I think part of that has to do maybe with that. And who knows if like the public is like afraid to say, hey, he's the greatest fighter right now. Yeah. But, he is undefeated still. So in his world, he is the greatest.
Well, the thing about that, though, is like, again, I mentioned earlier, guys like Mike Tyson, let's look at Muhammad Ali. They dominated when they were in the ring. Like, there was no question. We mentioned earlier, this was kind of like a typical Mayweather fight. Well, a typical Mayweather fight involves a lot of dancing, a lot of running around, right? That's not dominant.
The greatest escape artist in boxing.
Exactly.
What he's
you're very right. I believe he's been undefeated since the '96 Olympics. That's, I give respect, I'll give credit where credit is due. Nonetheless, he doesn't dominate. He's not like crushing opponents the same way that like a Mike Tyson did, the same way Ronda Rousey does when she's in the ring. You know what I mean? It's a little different from it. And again, like you said, I mean, he's one of those guys like no one. I don't know of a single person that's like, man, that's my guy right there. I love me some Mayweather.
And the thing is, I would say that this whole domination and the dominant listing is based on how many contenders you have and how strong they are.
Absolutely.
And with Rousey, she is plenty, and she's at the top of her game, and she's just knocking them out. And, are you the best in your class? You have, what, J.J. Watt at number 6, and then Aaron Rodgers at number 29. I think it's largely based on the caliber of pretty much the lineup you have behind you and the people who are fighting for your job. And that determines, and the fact that you're on top, and that determines whether you're dominant or not.
Absolutely.
With boxing too, it's all, sometimes it can be relative, or a lot of it, it's what the judges see and not see. And with fights, personally, I like to see a brawler go offensive, go at it, and really take on that opponent. Be in there, stand your ground, and use that jab or get in there. And Mayweather's style is not that way. And for people to get excited about defensive fighter, yes, it is an art form, but to watch it, sometimes you just want to see something more, just something more energetic, something that says, hey, I'm a killer. Because most people in that top spot have that killer instinct. He does in his own crafty way. Yeah. But it's more of a defensive manner, which people don't appreciate as much, I guess.
Plus, too, let's face it, with Mayweather, he fights guys that are either no-name fighters or guys that are way past their prime. He's not really going up against someone like again, Pacquiao, big name, but I mean, this is a fight that should have happened years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not now. So I think that, if anything, I just think that hurts him.
Yeah, but one thing, LeBron wasn't on this list.
No, he was 2.
Was he? He's number 2?
Yeah,
well, that's probably
2.
why. I was so stuck on Ronda Rousey. Thank God he's number 2. No, because I saw Steph Curry on it, James Harden, and so thank God. I must have missed it because I was like, no, he's definitely a dominant creature.
Serena was 3, I think,
Yeah, and that completely makes sense. It's, people who are at the top of their game and have a list of amazing contenders right behind them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes complete sense.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the thing with Mayweather. I think I would agree with that. He just doesn't have, and I don't know if that's his fault. Because, I mean, who else would he fight? There's nobody else he hasn't fought that's like an amazing fighter. So I think another thing with boxing, too, I wish they would work on their undercards. Nobody cares about the undercards, unless you're if you're a hardcore fan. I should say, if you're a hardcore fan, you study the sport, you pay attention to the upcoming fighters, you want to see the undercards. Like with UFC, there's free fights you can watch on FX for the pay-per-view. I'm like, wow, that's actually a good matchup because some guy you watch in the Ultimate Fighter worked his way up, he got a contract, he's fighting another guy. Maybe if he wins this fight, Dana's like, hey, because that's the other thing too. Dana in UFC has complete control over everything, which is good and bad because he can dictate the purses and everything. He has all this control. Like there's no Mayweather promotions in UFC, but you can't fight the number. You cannot stay away from the number one contender. If you don't, Dana will ship the title from you.
Which that seems completely fair.
Which I like that. So you always see
Yeah.
the best fights, which I really like. But it's just a different sport. Boxing still money-wise is king, as this fight's proven.
I mean, if you can get 100 cars off one lot, hey.
Yeah, he's Mayweather.
Banking.
He's making bank. So I want to end this show here. The last topic, real quick. I want to talk about our weekend preview, our look ahead, what everybody's excited to see. We still have the NBA playoffs, we have NHL playoffs going on right now. AJ, let's start with you. What are you looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Oh, well, I'm really excited to see Clippers Spurs. Oh, wait, the Spurs aren't in it anymore. Forgive me. There you go. I'm 100% Clippers. I think, this is going to be incredible matchup as they continue to go against the Rockets, and it's just like a, tussle back and forth, and I want to see if CP3 is going to be out there. I'm all LA. Let's do this.
Michael, how about you?
And sticking with NBA, but Bulls Cavaliers. I want to see which Bulls team shows up. I want to see if they can shut down LeBron, Kyrie, J.R. Smith, I believe, should be coming back. So I want to see how we handle that. Hopefully we'll bounce back, and it's going to be an interesting weekend.
MG?
And of course, I have to stick with the NBA. I will be at the Clippers-Rockets game tonight, wearing my Rockets red. But I think James Harden will really step up, and I think if they can really work together and get Dwight in the paint, and then work on that arc shot, I think they'll be able to really expose the Clippers' lack of depth. So we'll see what happens with CP3. But with or without him, I think the Rockets will be able to pull it off. But it may go to 7 games. I don't think it'll be an easy series at all.
No, not at all.
So
I'll definitely be watching the NBA playoffs as well, but I'm going to switch it up to the world of soccer, European soccer.
Of course you will.
My Chelsea Blues, Northwest London, represent are already champions of the British Premier League. I know Michael's very happy about that. They're already champions, but we have Liverpool this weekend, so that's going to be a big match. I hope we just shove it in their faces and just keep winning the rest of the week and blow everybody out. That's what I'm going to be watching, but I am also going to be watching the NBA playoffs. Thank you for joining us here on 3-Minute Warning Clubhouse Edition. This was a lot of fun. So we're going to tell everybody where they can find you. I'm David Griffin, as always. You can find me at GriffinDE on Twitter. MG, where can people find you?
you can find me on Twitter as well at MGMontem, M-O-N-T-E-M.
And AJ?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the AJ Lawrence.
And Michael, where can people find you?
And you can also find me on Twitter at Mr. Michael Alexis, and David and myself right here on the Stream.tv on the Arrow After Show.
And thank you for joining us for 3-Minute Warning Clubhouse Edition, and have a great weekend.
Mother's Day is May 10th, and let me guess, you forgot. Well, don't worry about it. I got you covered. This year for Mother's Day, get your mom laid. I know what you're thinking. What's Dad gonna say? Well, let's face it, Dad's 68 years old, and even with medical advancements, it's tough to trust a man that age to get the job done. Instead, let Kaimu Flowers delight your mother with one of these beautiful lays. Or, if that's a little much for you, why not treat her to an orchid spray? This Mother's Day, let Kaimu Flowers help your mom spend Mother's Day a tropical way. If you need help ordering, call this number right here or go to the website.